All right, the Sports Dribble podcast brought to you by Sports Rewind Digital. Today I'm joined by pro triathlete Hamish Longmuir. How are you, mate?
Good, how are you?
Good, mate. Big weekend ahead. The local
Yeah.
Sparke Helmore Triathlon. Scruggs has been posting up lots of athletes for the week. How are you feeling, mate?
I'm feeling good. I've hopefully gotten over a little virus that I have had for the past couple of weeks. So hopefully I can be fighting fit on Sunday. But yeah, it's interesting that they've shortened the distance this year, which is probably going to come in a little bit handy for me, but also be a bit of a Achilles heel of mine, not doing as much speed as I used to.
Yep. So you're focused a bit more on the longer stuff now, aren't you? The 70.3 rather than the sprint. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I've turned pro as a 70.3 athlete. I sort of started to turn away from the short course once I left school, just knowing that I didn't have the run leg to be able to go with the faster guys in that short course. And I was more of a swim biker when I was younger. So I was like, well, 7.3 is obviously it's 9K on the bike. It's very individual. So I was hoping to bring my good bike legs, but I did a 4-year stint turning into a runner. So
Nice.
I'm more of a swim runner now than a swim biker, which is sort of handy, but it also means I got a lot of work to do on the bike again.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Sparke Helmore, mate. While we got it fresh. Now it's the 29th edition. I remember the old days of Sparke Helmore. Used to get in at the brewery and sort of the tide used to carry me down all the way. I know this year you're going up and back, and they say the tide's going to be with you.
Yeah.
The current's going to be with you on the way back, so that's a good thing. So you said the distance changes now, mate. What is it now? 750 swim, is it?
Yeah, so normally the Sparke Helmore is an Olympic distance, which is 1.5K swim, 40K bike, and a 10K run. But they've actually halved it this year, so they've only got the sprint.
Yep.
They got, I think it's a sprint and then the enticer as well.
Yep.
So, a bit of a different dynamic. Obviously, shorter race, you can go harder. It's a lot more appealing to a lot more athletes as well. So I'll be curious to see if any of the up and coming juniors in Newcastle show up. I don't know if any of them are racing definitely, but it would be good to see some of them.
Absolutely. It's always a good event for Newcastle. I mean, right, you're going to be riding around the beach. I know they cut out King Edward Park this year. That was always a non-favourite of mine, but mate, it should be a good course. 6 laps over the 21 Ks on the bike. Going to be pretty flat and fast, I'd imagine.
Yeah, there's a lot of hot dog turns. I went out and rode the course yesterday, and there's 3 hot dog turns per lap, and then you've got a little sort of dog leg up and down foot scratchly. So it'll be very stop-start, but between all the turnaround points, it will be, I would dare say, extremely fast.
Yeah.
Especially that run all the way down from the top of Fort Scratchley back towards the brewery. It's pretty much downhill, and it'll be probably the fastest section of the course. Don't know what the wind's doing, but I dare say it's a Sunday morning, so it is going to be still as anything out there, which will be good.
It was pretty calm there this morning, mate. Had a bit of a walk around there this morning, and it was pretty calm. So fingers crossed it's nice and calm. 7:30 kickoff.
Sleep in.
Is that for the pros, or is that do the age groupers go later? Or
that's for everyone. So there's not actually a pro category. It's just it's more just age group. So everyone can race. Everyone starts at the same time, which I don't mind. I do enjoy it. It's sort of, it spreads us out enough, but yeah, it's good to have guys like me, Nate Stewart, who Nate's been a long time veteran of the sport, and me coming through and having all the other age groupers being able to start with us. So that means more time on course with us, and yeah, they can hopefully get dragged along a bit in the swim as well.
Absolutely. Mate, I've enjoyed Nate's post this week on Facebook. He's been popping up all the athletes, people like Langy and Regina Wright, and it's been really good to see all that. And obviously he posted something about you there as well.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see, because the Sparke Helmore Triathlon obviously been around for 29 years. I wouldn't imagine there's too many triathlons in Australia that have been going for that long. So it's pretty iconic, and you're going to see lots of different athletes there, lots of high class athletes, which is always cool to watch. I'm going to come in and bring the camera in and have a bit of a look myself. It's been a few years since I've been in and watched it, so it should be good fun. Now, for you, training wise, you're into the 70.3s. How would something like this differ from your training? Do you just sort of, I know you've been sick now, so you're obviously going to be a little bit, less volume being sick, but how would you usually training wise come into something like this?
It's a bit weird because I haven't actually done something this short a long time. It would all depend what's coming up for me, I dare say. So obviously I had Melbourne last week, which unfortunately I didn't finish because of my illness. So it would have been pretty similar anyway, what I've done this week, sort of start of the week a bit easier, and then obviously towards the later week I could put a bit more volume in, and then tomorrow I'll only do about an hour and a half of training, if that.
Yep.
But if I was coming off a full training block, I'd targeted this as one of my races. It would be the complete opposite, where I'd do all my bigger volume at the start of the week, sort of more speed related stuff. And then obviously coming in sort of Thursday, Friday, it would be more short race pace efforts, just sharpen up, get ready for the weekend, get all the lactic out of my legs. And then tomorrow I'll probably still do the exact same 1 hour ride, 3K, 1 hour ride in the morning, 3K run in the afternoon.
Yep.
And then just put the feet up, really.
Nice. Now, so 70.3 is non-drafting. Is tomorrow non-drafting event?
It is a non-drafting event. It'll be a bit interesting considering how short the laps are. I dare say it's going to be people everywhere. So
yeah,
I'm not too. It is what it is. There's been plenty of vocal people about the state of age group triathlon this year and the whole drafting scenario. They can't really fix it. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
With the amount of people they're trying to put on courses, but considering this is a little bit smaller event, I'm going to say it won't be as bad.
Yeah.
And because of all the stop starts, it'll sort of spread people out, because it's more how you handle the bike, not just you get in the group, you ride 20 Ks in a straight line, you turn around, you ride 20 Ks back, and you do it twice.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I know listening to how they train podcast, I think.
Yeah.
Talking about Jack was talking about some sort of meter that they're trying to implement for Ironman. Now, this has been a long time coming, I know, but there was a fair few this year in Hawaii that some of them were a bit harsh, but yeah, until they get something that's going to be, here's how far you've got. It's going to be hard. Everyone's judgment's going to be different.
Exactly. there was one on the weekend with a good mate of mine, Mitch Cunningham, who, from all I've heard from the race, he pulled a massive close to 40K turn. And then one guy rolled in front of him and a TA rode up next to him and just pinned him for drafting, even though he'd just been on the front for about an hour.
Wow. That's brutal.
Yeah. So, yeah, he wasn't too impressed. But as you said, he goes, until they work out exactly how to fix this, get the 12 meters right. I know Challenge and even the PTO have implemented, they've got cones, one cone set up every 20 meters or 12 meters, depending on what they do for their draft zone.
Yeah.
So the athletes know exactly how far they need to be behind the athlete in front of them, which I like. I do rate that. It's a lot easier. Obviously, it's not then based off your perspective of 12 meters or 15 or 20, whatever it is on the day.
Yep.
I think it's 10 meters for short course.
Yeah, I think so.
From memory now, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they've got to do something, and I guess that's a good step. I know PTO. I've really liked watching some of their events this year. Is that something that you'd want to get involved in?
Yeah. So that would be the big goal. Get to like one of their big, like Dallas Open, Canadian Open, one of those sorts of things, or even just get invited to one of their races.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot for professionals in our sport now, so it's a good thing to see.
Yeah.
It's been needed. Obviously, other than the Challenge and Ironman series, there isn't really a series that goes around. Like, I think Strokes talks about like the F1 Grand Prix and all that. There isn't really a series like that anymore for professionals.
Yeah.
So the PTO are sort of bringing that back in, giving pros opportunity to actually be able to live as a pro and not have to search for part-time work that some people do.
Yeah. Now, how about you and your situation, mate? Do you work full-time as well and race?
Yeah, so I'm still full-time working as an air conditioning installer.
Yep.
So I do a 40-ish hour week of work, varying hours, mainly because I also do commercial stuff. So
yep.
Sometimes I start at 6 o'clock, sometimes I start at 7. Like it's all based off what jobs I'm doing, where we've got to go. This time last year, I was also doing some working away in like places like Tamworth, Dubbo. I was in Albury earlier this year, leading into Husky. So that was a big 12 days for me leading into a race.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm still working. Just turned tradesman 6 months ago. So I turned tradesman and turned pro at the exact same time. So that was a big. Mate. Thank you. It was a long time coming.
Two big things, mate. Two very big things. Obviously, getting your trade and turning professional. It's a lot of people's dream to be a professional athlete, and obviously the struggles along the way, working and different things that you got to endure before you can go and race. Now I know you're sponsored by a few people. Let's give them a plug, mate. Who are you sponsored by?
BMC jumped on board with me back in August.
Yep.
As an ambassador. Also Carbon Mafia Wheels. They're based out of he's gonna kill me. A little town in Victoria.
Yeah.
Sorry, Noel, I forgot where it's based in. Also Newcastle Toyota's helping me out financially. Just with flights at the moment. Cycle House on the Central Coast.
Yep.
Morton, I do a little bit with them. I also do a little bit of work with them at expos and stuff. So I've been using their product for almost 3 years now.
Yep.
Run a shop on the Central Coast and in Randwick in Sydney. Strength and Beer Recovery, who I think you might know him, Troy Lowry. Yep. He helps me out with recovery when I can get in between work and sessions.
Makes it hard.
Yeah, it does. It does make it hard when I'm trying to juggle work, and then I've got sort of 4 to 5 hours of training after work to do, and yeah, I'll work it out eventually.
Right, it's fantastic to see. Now, first year as a pro, I've got written down here Port Mac 70.3 champion.
Yep.
Let's run us through that race, mate. What an achievement.
That was probably the lesser of the two. Husky was probably my better one. Yeah. That was a bit of Husky. I also won that was the Australian long course title.
Okay.
So Port was the Ironman 70.3 title.
Yep.
And Husky was the Australian long course title.
Yep.
So Husky, I'd just come off a 12-day straight work week, obviously in Albury. So I was doing 10-ish hour days, then training afterwards. That was a bit, I wouldn't say Husky was stressful. I had a good swim. I was sort of 3 minutes ahead coming onto the bike. And then sort of first lap of the bike, I remember this. I remember thinking to myself, all right, bike's going to be where the most amount of damage is done to me. I knew that for a fact. But after the first lap, I'd gone from being 3 minutes ahead to almost only a minute.
Yep.
Then I was sort of weathered the storm. The second lap, they were in front of me by that point. Obviously now with triathlon, they've got this whole rolling start scenario. So I was the first person in the water. So my issue was, I was first person in the water, but I knew anyone that caught me was going to be in front of me, which I knew very early on that was going to be the case, mainly because I like to be having clear water in the swim, so I don't have to battle through people. I can just pick my line and stick to it. So I got off the bike with, I think it was 6 or 7 guys.
Yep.
So they were, I think I had a 3-minute deficit to run down. Very quickly on the run, I found my run legs. And from then on, I sort of just started ticking away, turned at the 5K point, started running back. And I'm looking at all these guys as I'm running back going, no, I'm not running fast. I'm running faster than you. I'm running faster than you. I'm running faster than you. I didn't actually know that was someone still not off the bike yet when I was halfway through my run. That was still 3 minutes up there. So I never saw him. Didn't even know who he was. Had no idea that he was actually still, he had that massive gap on me. I remember Mum saying to me at the halfway point, I've got to keep pushing. I was sitting there going, yeah, I know I've got to keep pushing, but surely I'm close to the lead by now. I was looking at my watch and I'm sitting on 3:30s, 3:35K pace. I'm sitting there going, the only people that are running faster than me at the moment are the pros. From what I could see. I remember coming up back on going out on the second lap. I was looking at all the guys and you going, no, I'm running faster than you. Just visually, I could see that they were not running that quick from wherever it was, leg cadence or just how their running style was. And I turned at the top turn. And as I'm running back, I remember seeing, I can't even remember what suit he was in now. And I saw him running towards me and I'm sitting there going, he's running quick. And I was like, right, so there is someone running as fast as me. Right, that's all right. Ran up the hill. I was quietly confident that I knew I'd won my age group. But I had no idea if I was going to win my, the overall title, which is what I want to do. And it wasn't till about 20 minutes later when I was sitting sitting down, having some food with mum and dad, that they both said me like, "Yeah, you've won it." I'm like, "All right, sweet. That's job. That was the job done." So for me to qualify for my pro license, I had to come top 3 at that race overall as an age grouper.
Yeah.
So coming off that race, I was like, all right, job's done. Like I said to mum, I was like, all right, I've got Mooloolaba next weekend. I was like, all right, well, let's see if I can race opens, because I was entered as an age grouper as a backup plan.
Yep.
Something happened at Husky. Got it that the next weekend, so didn't end up racing Mooloolaba. And then it was sort of a big 8-week grind where I was still fighting off COVID. I was sort of training to my heart rate, so I wasn't letting my heart rate get too high. I sort of, instead of flogging myself, I was all right, just run the heart rate, run to how you feel. If you feel shit, just back it off until you feel better. So I did sort of 6 weeks of that. So that brought me to middle of April, I think, was the first time I actually felt good. Like I felt like I was over COVID. Then obviously 2 weeks, Port was on. Port was an interesting race because they had Melbourne 70.3 4 weeks beforehand.
Yeah.
And I looked at the start list, and there was a few guys there that I was like, okay, like this is a good field. I like one of the guys, Jared Osborne. He's now also turned pro, so he came second to me at Port. I saw him and I was like, oh, righto, yeah, you're a good athlete. Another guy called Jamie Huggett, who won that Melbourne 70.3 the 4 weeks before. Another guy called Sam Hill.
Yep.
He was also racing, and I'm sitting there going, right, this is a hot field here. I need to sort of be on my game. Like anything could happen. Like day before, I had 2 days before, I had a big ride. I think it was like 60 Ks, and I was sort of sitting there going, yeah, I feel good. Like I'm good. Bike legs felt good. Morning of felt fine. Swam fine. Got out the water with a ex-pro called, not ex-pro. What's his name? Shit. He's from Sydney. Good swimmer. I didn't know he was actually in a team. So I was like, oh, righto. I was like, oh, this will be good. I'll have a few guys to ride with here. Got on my bike and I saw another ex-pro, Kieran Roach, riding up the road. I remember my coach, Clayton Patel, who's another ex-pro, yelling at me saying, that's the wheel. I was like, yeah, I need to go for him. So probably the first 5K out of town, I hammered myself, managed to catch up to Kieran, got my shoes on and everything. Apparently Kieran really didn't want me sitting behind him all day, and he rode a little harder than I wanted to at the start. So I sort of just let him go, and it was all right, well, obviously that plan's out the window, having someone to ride with.
Yeah.
I was like, right. One is Port's a very lonely course.
It is.
It's 45K out. It's 45K out, 45K back. So the first 45K, I did not see anyone. Like I could see Kieran riding up the road, and I could see him most of the way out to turn point. I could just see him in the distance. All right, just he's still there, righto. Just go over the next hill and go to the next hill, start climbing the next one. Could still see. I was like, all right, I can't be riding that bad because Kieran's a really good rider. Turned around and then sort of 3/4 of the way back into town, just after Bonnie Hills, I just lost all power in my left leg. I had my hip flexor was starting to, like, it got really tight, lost all power, and I think it was something like I lost 2 minutes in like 10K.
Wow.
To Jared. And I was like, I don't know, at the time I didn't know. I knew Jared was coming because I saw a few boys I've trained with, like Joe Soulis was with them. Who else was in that group? I think Dean Callahan was in it at that point before he got his flat. And I'm because he was in the James Stewart multisport top. I was like, all right, this will be interesting. This is out at the far turnaround point. Going back in town, all of a sudden I just see this orange giant just absolutely hook past me. And I'm like, oh, righto. Didn't see the James Stewart shirt. And I just see this guy look back at me. I was like, oh, righto. So I got onto him. He dropped me just after. Where did he drop me off at? Matthew Flinders. I rode up Matthew Flinders with him, and just after Matthew Flinders, he just popped me. Then coming back into town, Sam Hill's ridden through me. I was still having issues with my hip flexor, so I couldn't really put the power down up the hills. And I was a bit coming towards the run, I was a bit concerned because I've had hip flexor issues in the past that has actually affected my run. And I was like, oh, righto. I was like, oh, and I told Clayton on the way through, I was like, hip flexor's no good. And he said, just run. I was like, righto, I'll get off the bike and I'll just run. Yep. Just run. I did enough. I first sort of 4K was not painful, but I could definitely still feel that my hip flexor was tight, especially running up the hill to Town Beach, running up Town Beach Hill and then back down. And it wasn't till about 10-ish K that I found my run legs. I've now created the amazing yet not amazing habit of being able to negative split my half marathons off the bike, as I also did in Sunshine Coast somehow. And I sort of, Clayton said to me at one point, he goes, all right, you're catching him. I'm like, all right, that's good. And I knew, I was like, I've still got to catch him. And once I catch him, if I catch him, I'm still going to have to run time into it. I didn't know how much at that point. Up through town, come back down the hill. And Clayton said to me, he goes, he's labouring, his leg speed's gone. I'm like, right, I'm feeling good. Let's have a crack. So that comment from Clayton sort of lifted me a little bit. And it wasn't until I saw my mum, she goes, all right, you've got 3 minutes. Two of those minutes is what you're going to have to run into him. I'm like, oh, I've got 8K to go. Actually, I think that's 7 at that point. I was like, 3 minutes and 7K. That's a big run I had to do.
Yeah.
I caught him out the far turnaround point at Settlement Point, and not that I tactically timed it, but I timed it past to perfection, as I'd like to think. I caught him smack bang at the turnaround point, so I went round the outside of him and just dropped the hammer for the next K. That next K from memory was a 3:20.
Wow.
So I absolutely dropped the hammer on myself. And Clayton had ended up, he'd somehow managed to find a bike, and he rode out to Settlement Point, and he screamed at me, and then he rode up further along the course to just before the next aid station. And he said to me, he goes, Coke and water. And I was like, what? And it didn't click in my head. I was like, oh, I should have, like, he's telling me to have Coke and then water to wash it down. I was like, right. Sitting there going, man, I've got 3Ks to go. Like, surely that's not going to affect me at all. But I eventually won by 14 seconds.
Wow.
And I will have a video forever to remember that race by. There's a great video that Ironman Oceania posted of me about falling over at the finish line. The carpet was a bit wet.
Oh, right.
So it was raining during our run. And I'm coming up the finish chute and I'm sprinting at this point and I could feel my feet sliding from underneath me. I finished and I was still coming in hot. And I just remember seeing the lady with the towel standing about a meter past the bottom of the finish ramp. And I just remember thinking to myself, I was like, I'm going to absolutely bowl this girl over if I don't slow down somehow. Unfortunately, I tried to slow down and fell over, but that's all right.
Classic.
Yeah.
Now, I know you talk about, there was a couple of points I want to touch on. Now, you talk about being out in front and being lonely on the bike. Is that a big mental head game? You know, not seeing anyone for ages on the bike. What goes through your mind when you're out there when there's nobody else around?
Not much. With technology these days, like you've got your heart rate, you've got power, and you've got speed, you've got cadence. So there's always something you can be focusing on. Yeah. So for that race, for me, it was simply just how hard can I ride? So in my back of my head, I was always like, I just keep pushing. Like I was watching my speed, going, all right, I'm doing 39. All right, let's try and get to 40. All right, I'm doing 40. Let's try and get to 41. Like I was constantly in my head, I was constantly pushing myself to ride as hard as I could. Sort of come Sunshine Coast, that was my first pro race. It came in handy. So yeah, that was Port was it was more mental for me. Port, Husky's a 3-lap course, so, and at Husky I had pros in front of me, so I could see people every sort of 5-10 minutes on the first lap, and I had people constantly to catch, so it wasn't too bad at Husky. But come Port, where it is that big long 45k out, 45k back, you can't see anyone. You sort of start focusing on, but then obviously it's harder then, because if you see the numbers and you go, okay, I'm doing this power but this speed, it does play with your head a little. But I've always been a firm believer that if you want to try and average a speed, try to average that speed. I've come from a short course background where you throw power out the window, you throw heart rate out the window, you just race hard. Yeah. You just, from start to finish, you are on if not in 0.3 pro races now, because there's so many short course guys coming in like Blumenfeld, Eden, Max Newman, who's an Aussie who came fourth at Kona. Like, they're all coming from that ITU background where it is, you're on the limit from start to finish. So, and you're starting to see that in the Aussie, like the Aussie series, where you've got guys like on the weekend, Charlie Quinn, first pro race as in the 7.3, he just took it to them on the run. Like he ran I think from memory, his first 10K was like 31 minutes. Like he just was like, okay, so short course race, boys, let's go. And obviously it didn't pay out for him, but if he tries it again, say in New Zealand in a couple of weeks, it might pay out for him then. So it's that the whole what's going through your head, it is now simply just you can go harder. Like this, you know you can ride harder than this. This is the average speed that you want to average or you need to average.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be coaches absolutely cursing and swearing at me right now, but that's the fact of pro racing. It's just swim hard, ride hard, run hard.
Yeah, especially if you want to progress in the sport, you're trying to make a name for yourself, and you got to get it done. So what's next for you, mate? I know you got Sparke Helmore this weekend. What's after that?
Hobart in early February.
Yep.
And then Husky late February. And then Geelong.
Yep.
So I was going to do, there is an option for me to do Mooloolaba in early March. Just trying to work out, Hobart and Geelong are going to be quite expensive. So Helmore, there is a race in Newcastle, the Maitland Tri, which got cancelled earlier this year. Same weekend as Mooloolaba. So I was like, maybe I just stick at home, do that race instead. And then in between Hobart and Husky is the Island Tri, which is also a Newcastle race out at Stockton.
Very cool, mate. Heaps on.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Well, we wish you luck on the weekend. The Sparke Helmore should be good fun. I'm going to come in and have a bit of a look. It's been a few years for me since I've been in there. So, wishing you all the best, mate. And
thank you.
Best wishes for the races to come.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time, champ.
All good. Thank you.
Mate.
Thanks for having me.